Microsoft Azure Arc is a fantastic opportunity to meet your customers where they're at. I am Fede Pacheco, and this is Adam Burke. We're from the Global Partner Solutions team here at Microsoft, and we're excited to share a little bit more how you can improve your business profitability and explore the opportunities that Azure Arc brings. The agenda for today, first we're going to cover two new capabilities within Azure Arc. The first one is Arc-enabled SQL, and the second is the extended support opportunity. Then we want to walk you through a couple of programs and incentives that can make this journey for you and your customers even better. And finally, share some resources for you to check out at your own time. Now, quick review. What is Azure Arc? You may be already deploying Azure Arc today. You may be thinking about deploying it or never been deploying it before, but there's a huge opportunity for you here. Azure Arc is a bridge that extends Azure-like capabilities to your on-prem infrastructure. This allows you to have a lot of the benefits that Azure brings, like the Azure portal that brings you government and manageability, brings you the opportunity to have flexible billing, only paying as you go, and for every month after month, without the need to report if you're a SPLA partner. And finally, it also allows you to attach incredible upsell opportunities like Microsoft Defender for Cloud or Sentinel. Azure Arc gives you the opportunity that you can meet your customers where they're at when they're not ready to migrate today, while giving you the flexibility in the future of offering those migration and modernization projects. Now, the new functionalities that we're going to talk today, we're going to focus specifically on how you can increase profitability and create new revenue streams with them. The first one is SQL Server licensing, which allows you to Arc-enable SQL Server Standard and Enterprise Edition. And like I mentioned, you can manage your SQL state through the Azure portal. You can have that control and government of your data state and have that security opportunity, especially if your customer has really high compliance standards. Now, if your customer is on Windows Server 2012, SQL Server 2012, SQL Server 2014 soon to expire as well, and they're reaching or have already reached end of support, you can purchase the extended security updates for these through Azure Arc as well and get the benefits that I already mentioned. This is a fantastic opportunity for you and your customers, and I'm excited to introduce you now to Adam, who will tell you more about them.
Hey, thank you, Fede. Yeah, we definitely have an exciting opportunity around Azure Arc-enabled SQL, as well as Azure Arc extended security updates. The whole Arc platform we are seeing is really just creating new opportunities for our partners and customers, really around hybrid-based solutions. I think it's really a great addition to what we can do with Azure in the public cloud is providing incremental value from a hybrid standpoint across our partner data centers and into customer environments as well. So for Arc-enabled SQL, if you go do a quick Bing search on it, you may see a couple of different things. And so what we want to kind of do here is just kind of focus in on really that left side of the screen here, the Azure Arc-enabled SQL server. That's going to be the focus of our conversation today. On the right, you'll see some other things around SQL Managed Instance or PostgreSQL. Great opportunities to refactor on-prem and add incremental value, but outside of the scope of the conversation today. The thing to know about Azure Arc-enabled SQL Server is it's the same version of SQL that you have been running for years. We have support all the way back to SQL Server 2012. And you can basically look to wrap Arc around this SQL Server, both for billing and incremental value. And we'll kind of touch on both of those here in this conversation today. So in terms of billing, there is a pay-as-you-go model now for Azure Arc-enabled SQL, where essentially what you do is you deploy that Arc agent onto that SQL server. You register the SQL Server within Azure Arc, and then Arc is actually able to bill you at an hourly rate for your SQL consumption based on actual use. If the server's up and running, you pay. If it's offline, you don't. So you actually get cloud economics for SQL in your data center. If you're a SPLA partner listening to this, you have a massive opportunity to provide incremental value to your customers, but also to save costs. So if you look at the pricing here, what you'll find is the SPLA ERP pricing matches Azure Arc pricing at a monthly level. So you essentially, from a list price standpoint, have the same pricing available. But when you pivot to Azure Arc enabled SQL, you get Azure Arc economics. And so as it stands, you get the benefit of getting a partner earned credit if you're a direct CSP partner, or perhaps a discount through the indirect provider channel. You also get a Microsoft Commerce incentive rebate. And if it's a new Azure customer, right now in CSP, both direct and indirect resellers are eligible for new customer Azure rebates for qualifying customers. And we'll kind of speak to that later. But the net of it is there is a huge cost savings opportunity for our SPLA partners here to make this pivot, and also to continue to accelerate and grow their Azure business as part of this change. So super excited about what this does for our partners. In terms of kind of the capabilities with Arc, you get everything I mentioned if you kind of go that pay-go direction. And here on the slide, it's really kind of that top button in the red box there to select the agent and choose pay-go. Or if you have software assurance or a SQL subscription you've purchased through some other means, you can select the paid version to get incremental value that comes with Arc-enabled SQL. And if you're really just looking for kind of overall, asset management of this in Arc, that's license only. That may be things like Developer Edition that's not licensed. SQL Web is an example. Those things you can look to deploy the license only option, which gives you some additional management capabilities, but not kind of the full scope of capabilities that you get with Arc enabled SQL if you go pay-go or have software assurance. One of the key benefits, I think, in terms of adding value to your customers is really the best practices assessment that comes with Arc enabled SQL. So I spent some time in consulting in prior roles. And one of the things I would have customers ask is, does this solution meet Microsoft best practices? How do I know my servers are set up in line with what Microsoft recommendations are? And so for your SQL environment today, whenever you deploy Arc, this is something that you can run, and it can scan in intervals. It can be configured to kind of run in a periodic fashion and validate that your server remains in line with what Microsoft would have in terms of best practices around security, compliance, performance, all of those things that are important for your data estate. Azure Arc can help ensure that SQL is running as in the most optimal fashion that you would want. I think this is a great benefit too for our SPLA partners to be able to enhance their offerings. And as you're messaging to customers why you're transitioning them to this new SQL consumption model, you can choose what you offer them in terms of the economic benefits, but this is definitely a value add I believe you'll want to lead with in terms of giving them increased value and really increased confidence in their platform and how you can provide those incremental capabilities to them beyond just a cost savings motion. So to kind of briefly recap here for SQL, if you have SPLA today, we believe that is the easiest conversion to make to Arc-enabled SQL. If you're in SPLA, you're in a monthly billing model, you can true up or true down, really what you're running on a monthly basis. It's the perfect time to pivot to Arc-enabled SQL and get those additional economics. You also get the reduced overhead where Arc-enabled SQL handles that license and counting for you. So, if you're tracking SPLA licenses today, you can remove SQL Server from that list as one additional thing you need to track when you roll out Arc-enabled SQL. It's also a great opportunity to lead with, new SQL servers through an Arc-enabled SQL motion. So if you're a partner that is selling new SQL licenses as well, this may be something where you want to consider how Arc-enabled SQL can be what you lead with in place of maybe a typical CSP subscription. And then really looking to transition to Arc-enabled SQL on existing SQL servers, especially if they have that software assurance benefit where you can unlock the full value, is something that is a great way to realize incremental benefit across the board here. This supports both standard and enterprise versions, and then does go back to SQL 2012, like I mentioned as well. Another key motion that we have is all around Azure Arc extended security updates. And so this is another way that really through the Arc platform, you're able to provide additional support and security to customers that are running operating systems or database technologies that are end of life. And what makes this a compelling conversation now is back on October 10th, Windows Server 2012 reached end of life. And what that means is we are no longer through our standard channels providing patches to ensure that server is patched with if there's any new vulnerabilities or other things found. Windows Server 2012 is no longer included in that patching schedule. And so, if you're a customer or partner today, you really have three key options that you can look to take advantage of to get into either a modern environment or to maintain security while you build towards that modernization plan. So from a modernization standpoint on Azure, that's always going to be the preferred recommendation, just to get the latest and greatest capabilities. And so you can rebuild that application or solution in Azure. If you're not ready to do a full cloud rebuild, if you do a lift and shift migration and you maintain Windows Server 2012 in Azure, you actually get free ESUs for all those instances running in Azure for a total of 3 years. And so that's a great way to get patches today. But often what we find is, if customers would have been able to move the solution as is to Azure, that may have already occurred. And so there is still a substantial amount of Windows Server 2012 on-prem that customers are looking to determine how they can stay secure. And really deploying ESUs by Azure Arc is a great option there to provide them with that extended security benefit. Windows 2012 and now SQL Server 2012, this is the first time we've had patching via Azure Arc. Historically, you had to have a volume license agreement to be able to get those benefits, but now they're available through Arc. And just like Arc-enabled SQL, all of the configuration and setup takes place in the Azure portal. For Arc-enabled capabilities, there's not specific SKUs that you would look to deploy. It all takes place really right within the Azure portal. And so you will see CSP extended support updates that are available. That is going to be separate than what we're talking about with Azure Arc. And so I just want to make that clear. The volume licensing SKUs that you see in CSP, if you're a CSP partner, as an example, or if you're a customer that has a volume license agreement like an EA, those have different benefits and I would say are honestly a little less flexible than what you get with Arc in terms of the monthly billing and capability. So if you're looking to set this up for customers, you go through the Azure Arc portal. It uses that same Azure Arc agent that maybe you've already deployed for Arc-enabled SQL Server. So that's the other thing to know about the Arc platform is it really sits on your VMs in your data center, and there's additional capabilities that you can add and are stackable once you have that agent running. And so in order to give ESUs to those servers, you would go in and configure them and set them up here. Another key thing to know about that deployment is you don't have to use Arc to patch your server instances. Arc tells the VM that it's eligible and able to accept that ESU deployment for 2012, but it doesn't have to be the delivery mechanism that does it. If you have a third-party solution that you're deploying ESUs through today, you can continue using that platform. And this is really the best path to be able to help those VMs understand that they're eligible to accept those extended security updates. In terms of the economics, there's a few reasons why I think Arc may be the most attractive path for your customers. Arc is billed monthly. So you are billed from October 10th. So if you were to deploy Azure Arc enabled ESUs today, you would have a one-time charge. Basically, think of it as kind of a catch-up payment from October 10th until now. And then going forward, you're billed at the monthly or really down to the hourly rate in terms of that actual consumption. So from a go forward standpoint, your customers, if they're looking to modernize, are not tied into a 1-year term the same way they are with our volume license or the SKUs that you'll see in CSP. Those are all annual SKUs. This is a great way if a customer has an upgrade planned in the next few months to save them some money, but keep them secure now. The other thing you get with Arc-enabled SQL is some different licensing rights that can create a little more flexibility to also drive cost savings. So on the volume licensing side, you essentially have to match with ESUs the same model you're using for operating system licensing. And if you've deployed Windows Data Center on let's say a VMware cluster where you have a number of VMs running, all licensed through Data Center, you would need to match that data center licensing for ESUs, even if you only have maybe 1 or 2 VMs running 2012 that are looking for that ESU. With Arc, you can basically match at the OSE or the VM level, that operating system environment, to match that location and version of where you would like these ESUs. So in that same example, if you only have 2 VMs running Windows Server Standard that need ESUs, with Azure Arc, you could deploy that and only to those 2 VMs and benefit from being charged for Windows Server Standard versus what the data center cost is. These VMs are priced at essentially the annual cost of an OS license. And so there is, a way for customers, or there is that charge that is available to them, I should say, that basically matches what they would pay if they were to buy that new license. It's also worth mentioning that to get ESUs, you do need to have that software assurance benefit or be running in SPLA. And if your customer needs to get current, the best way perhaps for them to do that, or a way I should say for them to do that, that may be the simplest if you're a CSP partner, is to offer them a CSP subscription license. So if they don't have SA or a software benefit today, that's how you can help them get current as well as going to support that modernization effort. In terms of deployment, like I mentioned, it all happens through the Azure portal. So even though all this work is taking place on premises, everything basically is controlled and orchestrated through Azure Arc in the portal here. And we do have ways through PowerShell as an example, or your scripting tool of choice, to basically roll this out at scale. So if you need to deploy this to 500 or 1,000 VMs, you can basically build this, script it, and then deploy that and make those connections back to Azure in more of a scripted fashion. SQL Server as well has the same motion here. So again, all occurring in the Azure Arc portal. And if you're interested in this deck or screenshots, we did show that link on the first slide. We also, I'll repeat it here, it's aka.ms/arcdek, ARCDEK, and that has the link to be able to go and grab these slides with these screenshots, which will give you a good step-by-step walkthrough of how you can accomplish this. So to kind of recap the end of support opportunity, leading with Arc-enabled ESU in all end of support conversations versus the volume licensing ESU, we believe is going to be the best way to provide the most flexibility to customers to support them on this journey. as well as giving them an opportunity to only pay for the ESU for the time they need it as part of that modernization effort. And really for you as the partner to be their trusted partner now to keep them secure, but then also to help them with that modernization focus. So in terms of this Arc opportunity, one of the key things with Azure Arc is because it all is Azure consumed revenue that counts really the exact same way as counting from a revenue standpoint as if you had workloads running in the public cloud. Our programs that support overall Azure adoption are all in scope for Azure Arc deployments as well. So the data center optimization program, the AM program, Azure Migrate and Modernization program, as well as our Cloud Migration Factory program, all of those things can be leveraged to help you with these type of deployments and to provide additional incentive and investment to further this type of Azure Arc deployment in your data center today. The other thing to know is you do benefit from the incentives that are available, like we touched on earlier. So for full details, go to partnerincentives.microsoft.com. There you can see specifically what applies to you. But I think three key ones to be aware of. One, if you're a direct CSP partner today, you have the 15% partner earned credit, and that partner earned credit can help reduce the cost of the initial deployment up front. And then you have additional incentives on the back end that also really reduce what your total cost of ownership is when it comes to leveraging Azure Arc. So you get the 4% Modern Commerce incentive. And then currently we also have a new customer add incentive of 15% for new Azure customers. And so those are customers that have consumed less than $100 of Azure today. And again, check out the partner incentive site for full details and full eligibility. But we believe, especially if you're a SPLA partner, if you pivot to Azure Arc, both for ESUs or even just to transition how you're licensing SQL Server today, huge cost savings opportunity for you with this type of pivot. And if you're looking for help with this rollout, we have something called the Cloud Migration Factory to support an Azure Arc deployment. But it actually supports more than that. It supports really first-party workloads that are running and you're looking to move to Azure as well as some third-party workloads. There's key capabilities we offer around Linux and key capabilities we offer around NoSQL or OSS databases as well. And this Cloud Migration Factory team, which really has resources that are covered through Microsoft, can help with transitioning from remote desktop to Azure Virtual Desktop as well. Those are some key scenarios we see in terms of support, in addition to that Arc-enabled deployment. There is zero cost to you as a customer or partner. And as of today, we don't have minimum size requirements to leverage this team. There is still partner work that is required in terms of the upfront planning and also the migration wrap up. So this is really a great offering to incorporate into your migration offerings and look to reduce your total cost, while also being able to share with the customer that Microsoft and the Cloud Migration Factory is directly engaged in their migration. And so if we look at the prerequisites, I think three key ones to know is you as the partner for your customers would need to build out that Azure landing zone. You'd want to make sure that you have that network connectivity established and in place. And then we do use Azure Migrate to deploy or to handle the migrations. And so you would need to have a VM available where they can install that. Once that's in place, the team can engage and support that. And then you as the partner would be available to help with the remediation, really things that are outside the scope of what the factory does. So the factory is there to really help get that migration, from point A to point B, but they're not going to be available to assist with like high availability or DR setup. They're not going to handle things like backup and recovery or monitoring. all of those are still in scope for what you as the partner would be able to offer the customer. And so I think it's important to mention that, so you view this as not something that you're going to hand over completely to the migration factory to do end to end, but more thinking of how you can incorporate the cloud migration factory offer into your overall solution to the customer. And so if you're a partner that's hearing about this and is interested in working with the migration factory, we've got the email up here where you can look to hand this or reach out and engage that migration factory team. It's mfpartnerdesk@microsoft.com. And if you can share kind of the key details here, the account name, the TPID, and then a brief scope of work of what you're looking for, and the team can look to engage here as well, and really assign someone to get started in working with you on this project. It is important to know that we do want the customer commitment secured prior to reaching out on to this team. So you're looking for opportunities where the customer is already committed to Azure, and it's more a how of the work will get done, and that's where this team can really help and offload some of these, some of this work here for you. So in terms of Azure Arc, through the partner channel, we are seeing just tremendous momentum around this motion. So if you're a partner that's already started on the Arc journey with us, thank you for that. And if you're a partner that hasn't yet begun, we really believe this is a great way to drive incremental Azure revenue. And so we've really been focused on this. The end of support motion was really a huge catalyst to accelerate this Arc motion around end of support, and then new capabilities coming or that have landed now, which allow you to leverage Arc enabled SQL, have really built huge momentum across the partner ecosystem. And so talking to partners, there's multiple partners that have built $1 million plus pipeline through this type of deployment as well. And then are really kind of also reducing what that transition cost and deployment motion looks like through partner-led AM. So definitely something to consider or think about for how you can incorporate this into your own journey. So Fede, do you want to share more about kind of some next steps and key resources here that partners can leverage?
Sure, Adam. Thank you. So I'll do a quick wrap up. First and foremost, when you can migrate workloads to Azure, you can talk to your customers about Azure Arc for extended security updates and for Arc-enabled SQL. It's important that you understand the transition opportunities that you have as a SPLA partner to Arc-enabled SQL, and you can leverage Adam and the rest of the DCO team to talk about these opportunities. Remember all the programs that Adam has mentioned so far, leverage them to accelerate these opportunities and get to results faster. And of course, reach out to your Microsoft team if you need support or have additional questions. And for getting started today, first of all, you can download the deck. Adam mentioned it previously. You can go to AKMS/ArcDeck and you'll have access to all the resources and links that I'm sharing here with you. You can learn more about the DCO program. If you haven't heard of it before, go to AKMS/DCO. And third, I want to share with you the opportunity we covered today a lot about the why this is a fantastic opportunity for you, but let's talk about the how. How can you and your teams be enabled in Arc training? So go to AKMS/ArcTrain and you can get access to Level Up. We have a limited amount of seats for this program. You can enroll using the code that it's here on the screen. And we have both technical and sales tracks that cover full migration, but we've added modules specifically to Arc-enabled SQL and extended security updates so that you and your teams can feel fully confident to deploy this at the best of your abilities. Of course, these are first come, first serve, so make sure you use them soon. And every user will be able to consume all this content on demand for 30 days once they log in. And finally, if you haven't had enough, we have plenty more resources for you to learn more about Arc and the 2 new capabilities that we mentioned today. So feel free to consult as well all these resources that are as well attached on the deck. We have really enjoyed sharing all this with you today and hope to see you thrive with the Arc journey.